So let's work on the feedback we're providing to the user, both in the error case as well as whilst we're waiting for the request to be sent. Now, in our action, the sign up action, I'm using async await. Therefore, as you learned already, this always returns a promise. Sometimes it returns a promise that fails, for example, if we throw this manual error. So with that, we can go back to user auth and there add two new keys to the data we're managing here. Is loading, which is false initially, and error, which is null initially. And in submit form, if we make it past the validation step, I'll set this is loading to true. And then once we're done dispatching here, I'll set this is loading to false. Now for that, we need to wait for this action to finish though. Otherwise, we set this instantly to false after this has been dispatched without waiting for the response. And therefore, I'll turn this into an async function as well, an async method, submit form, and we can then await this dispatching action. In addition, we can wrap this all with try catch, this if block here, so that we catch any error that might be thrown. And we can then set this error equal to error.message or to a fallback message of failed to authenticate, try later, anything like that. You can, of course, also fine-tune the error message you're throwing here inside of your action. Check your login data, for example. But you can also be more specific, for example, by drilling into that response object you get back from Firebase. Here you can really fine-tune this to your requirements. But with that, back in user auth, we try catch this, we set the error. Now we just need to reflect the loading state and the error on the user interface. And I will do that with help of my base dialog. I'll add a base dialog here and wrap this all into a div so that we don't have multiple root level components, because as you learned, that's not something the transition component wants. But then I have a base dialog here where I actually want to show a loading spinner. And therefore, I'll use this fixed prop, which we also have on the base dialog. You might remember that I talked about that when I added the base dialog component. It ensures that the dialog can't be dismissed. And I'll bind show to is loading. As long as we're loading, this dialog will be shown. And inside of that dialog, I then have a paragraph where I say authenticating, and below that I show my base spinner. And I'll add another base dialog, which I want to show in the error case. By the way, on this other dialog, I'll first of all also set a title, where I also say authenticating. I guess we can then get rid of the paragraph though. So let's get rid of that, just show the spinner and say authenticating in the title. But now back to the other dialog. Here, I want to show this if we do have an error. So with this double exclamation mark trick, I ensure that this truthy or falsy value is converted to a Boolean. Can set the title here to an error occurred. And then inside of that dialog, I add a paragraph where I output my error message like this. With that added, if we saved it all and go back, go to sign up mode, and I enter the same email address as before, and I click sign up, we see that spinner and then that error dialog. This missing doesn't work at the moment, as I can see, because obviously we should listen to the close event on that error dialog, not on the other one, because the loading dialog is dismissed automatically, but the error dialog should be dismissed by us with a handle error method we should add, in which we simply reset our error data property. So here I'll add handle error in the methods of this component and set this error back to null. With that, it's a falsy value, and then this will no longer show the dialog. So with that, back in the app. If I again try this with an email I already used, we fail. If I use a valid email for signing up, we succeed. So that works now. We got that visual feedback. We also might want to redirect the user thereafter, but that's also something I'll focus on later. Because what I want to do at the moment is also make login work and then do something with the token.